We'll circle back around.
And we're going to turn to Senator Wicker.
Well, thank you very much, and I'm intrigued by the pronunciation of this substance. So I'll since the last witness says PFAS, I'll say PFAS. Some people say PFAS. I want to nail something down if I can. Is there a category of PFAS, and I'll ask this to you, Dr. Loranga, that is not harmful as compared to a type of PFAS that is? And here's where I'm going. There's a rather far-reaching definition of PFAS as any compound containing at least one fully fluorinated carbon atom, unquote. Now, I'm told by some people that this combines a type of PFAS that is okay and not harmful with a type that is, and that the type of PFAS that is not harmful is used in 95% of our ammunitions and a number of very, very important things to our economy, not to include national defense. So if the panel, starting with Dr. Loranga, would discuss that, I would appreciate it.
Thank you, Senator. It's my understanding that the fluoropolymer substances like PTFE, for example, that's used in many of our defense systems. 95% of our ammunition has a similar type of polymer chemical. Almost all of our weapon systems have these types of chemicals. And that the PFAS of concern do not come out of those for bioavailability, so they're not available to the body for absorption.
Although they do contain one fully fluorinated carbon atom.
Yes, sir.
They do not propose, they do not comprise a harmful substance.
That's correct. One of the issues is that could cause that is if you're heating them. If you're heating them far above the temperature that they're rated for, that could happen.
For example?
For example, a pan. You know, that's a complete use where we could remove that from the marketplace without any adverse effect to our infrastructure or defense.
Okay. Well, so should we be concerned that certain domestic suppliers will not be able to meet the demand for very important products as they continue to fight over this definition?
Yes, sir. If we were to ban as a country all PFAS chemicals in a broad brush, it would affect our supply chain that would lead directly to our military, public health, and all the critical infrastructure sectors. And you know, one example is the guidance systems on airplanes and ships and a lot of other drones and things like that use semiconductors in which PFAS was used to create those semiconductors. In addition, the wiring, the insulation on the wiring has PFAS-containing chemicals as insulators to the wiring. And if we were to broadly brush these into a regulator where we couldn't use them anymore, airplanes would have to get heavier, they would carry less people, they would carry less cargo, and they would become a lot heavier. And so what that would mean is we would be burning a lot more carbon to move the same amount of cargo or people in a passenger.
And public health would not be any better off.
Public health would not be any better off because you'd be increasing the amount of air pollution that you put into the environment, which ends up in our oceans anyway.
Okay, well, let me ask Mr. Chairman to, at this point, enter into the record a report on critical per and polyfluoroalkyl substance uses.
Without objection.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. If other members My time it has expired, but I'm sure other members of the panel would like to respond.
Thank you, Senator.
I think that's an invitation if anybody else wanted to follow up on his question.
Thank you for your question, Senator Wicker. To my knowledge, there are no PFAS that I would consider completely safe. Different PFAS have different chemical structures and different toxicity. We know a lot about PFOS, PFOA, and a handful of other PFAS chemicals that are frequently found in drinking water supplies and in people's blood. There are newer PFAS replacement chemicals that are more mobile in the environment. We've been studying them for a shorter amount of time, but as Dr. Fenton said, they raise many of the same health concerns. When we talk about fluorinated polymers like PTFE, those are large molecules, and they're less likely to enter our cells and may not have the same type of toxicity. As Dr. Larrañaga said, if you overheat those, though, they can produce toxic fumes. For instance, in your home, if you overheat a Teflon pan, those fumes can be really toxic for pet birds, and I can't imagine that they're good for our health either. I would add another important point, though, that fluorinated polymers don't occur by themselves. Polymers are produced from shorter PFAS chemicals that are stitched together, and products containing a fluorinated polymer also contain a mixture of different PFAS chemicals. So we never are exposed to just one PFAS at a time. So even fluorinated polymers raise concerns about exposures among workers in fluoropolymer production facilities and in the communities, for instance, in North Carolina that Dr. Fenton described, in the communities where around those facilities where drinking water, soil, sediment can be contaminated. And then at the end of a product's useful lifespan, there are concerns about disposal. What happens to those PFAS after we throw away products that contain PFAS? If they're incinerated, there are concerns about air emissions and what that might mean for communities around incinerators that are often environmental justice communities, or putting them in a landfill could lead to slow release from landfills over time as well. And in terms of the different types of uses of PFAS, I would point to the essential uses framework, which I think provides a really nice path forward for identifying where we can start making reductions in PFAS use now. It's certainly easier to take PFAS out of a Teflon pan. Another common use I would point to are dental flosses, like Oral-B Glide dental floss, which is made with Teflon. We're putting Teflon in our mouth. To me, that's a non-essential use that we could absolutely do away with right now. If you're talking about critical infrastructure, cell phones, semiconductors, those might take longer to find alternatives to phase out their use.
Last statement is very much appreciated. Yes, the last sentence.
May I respond, Senator?
Yes, and it seems that I have mispronounced your name.
Yes, sir.
Larrañaga?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay, I've done better. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. First of all, Teflon dental floss is absolutely necessary for me. My teeth are packed so tight that that's the only thing I can get in there. So just FYI, we agree that, we shouldn't improperly dispose of PFAS-containing materials. But let me give you an example of how important PFAS chemicals are. The firefighting foams that we are replacing the PFAS-containing AFFF with contain fluorinated polymers. So if we were to remove these chemicals from the marketplace at a broad brush, we would be left without the ability to fight these large fires, even if we have to fight them in a compromised fashion because these new foams are not as effective as AFFF.
Could I comment, please? Senator Wicker, I read just last night a document from the Federal Aviation Administration that there are 2 mil-spec AFFF. They're on the QPL right now. We do have safe replacements. I know at least they've listed 2, and they were considering a 3rd one. So although it seems ominous, especially for the defense systems, some of the microcomputers, things like that, to replace something that seems essential, we're being successful at it. Someone, in fact, one of the companies that makes the QPL PFAS-free foam is a company that made AFFF foam. So they're doing it. They're still making money. They're still building their industry, and they're using their imagination and their experts to make a safer product. So I do think it's doable, and it's happening already. So I just want to leave you with that impression.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, for that indulgence, and perhaps witnesses can supplement their answers for the record.
Thank you very much, Senator. I want to go back to a point you made, Dr. Fenton,